All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Google Education Group New Jersey number 4. My name is Chris Aviles. I'm super excited to be here with you. We have assembled an all-star cast. We're going to go around real quick and kind of just give a little introduction about who we are and what we do. Mr. Bradbury, we're going to throw to you first, sir.
Thank you for having us today, Chris. It's been nice to see everybody. My name is Jeff Bradbury. I'm the technology coach from Westwood Regional School District, and I'm a Leo. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I just learned the other day I'm the last few days of Aquarius, so I don't know what that means, but I was told that. So I don't know if Aquariuses and Leos jive, but I guess we'll see throughout the broadcast. We are also joined by Kim Matina for a second week in a row. An absolute pleasure. Kim, how are you?
Thank you for having me, Chris.
Absolutely. Kim, remind us where you are and what you do, please.
I'm a technology integration coach down at the William Davies Middle School in Mays Landing, New Jersey, and I am also a Google certified trainer.
Outstanding. Happy to have you back. Nick, we have Nick with us. Nick, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do, Nick.
Sure, I'm Nick. Actually just started as the Instructional Technology and Staff Development Coordinator for Ramapo Regional High School District.
Outstanding. How long have you been with Ramapo?
Just started, actually, so I've only been there for about a month.
Oh, fantastic. Good. That's kind of the theme of tonight's show. We're going to throw back to you in a minute and explore what it is to be new with a lot of this stuff. And last but never least, we are joined by Jen Smith from Lindenwold School District. Jen, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Hello, I am so happy to be with you guys tonight. I teach 5th grade language arts social studies at Lindenwold Middle School currently, and I am a Google Classroom newbie this year.
Outstanding. And so, Jen, we're going to stay with you because, as I mentioned, that's kind of the theme of tonight's show.
Mm-hmm.
How do we get started, people using Google, whether it's Google Classroom, whether it's Google's app for education, Google Drive, however you want to say it. Jen, I know from talking to you that you have just started using Google Classroom this year.
Yes, I have.
And how has that been?
It's amazing. My kids love it. I love it. It has made my life so much easier. I recommend people just watch a 10-minute YouTube video, and that's really all it took. I just YouTubed it. I spent 10 minutes in my car one day watching it, and then the next day I set it up, and then I was up and rolling. It was very easy to use.
So then my question to you is, I agree. I've used Classroom for a long time, and I do think it's super easy to use.
Mm-hmm.
But why did you decide to bring Google Classroom into your classroom?
I figured there would be an easier way than what I was already doing. So for the last few years, I've been using Google Docs and slides and forms, but I was sharing them with my students. And then they would have to make a copy, and then I would have to go to my shared folder. I would have to open each one of their documents, and then I'd have to comment. And there was no place to put their grade, so I'd have to put their grade in a comment, which was a pain, and then I'd have to transfer their grade into their grade book. So for something that they loved and I really enjoyed, it took a lot of time. And I figured there had to be an easier way. So a friend of mine experimented with it this year and said, Google Classroom does everything you need plus some. So I tried it out, and it's worked, and it saved me a lot of time.
And what has been maybe the biggest surprise for you so far? What was something that's going on with Classroom that you did not expect?
I didn't expect for my students to not only love it, but they can use it with ease. My students don't have computers at home. They have phones, a lot of them, but I was worried that it would be too techy for them or I would lose them with the technology, but that was not the case at all.
And so what has been your biggest surprise or the best part of Classroom that maybe you didn't expect?
I have been able to use it in a way that just completely eliminated the copy machine at my school, and that's a huge source of a pain in my school. It is constantly down, and we're always pulling our hair out. So that's what got me into the apps to begin with, because I heard, you can eliminate the copy machine. So I said, okay, I'm in. No matter what you say after that, I'm in. So I tried Google Docs with that, and then of course I could do that, but Google Classroom has allowed me to, even with data in our district, we after benchmarks we analyze the data, and just by creating a form, sharing it in Google Classroom, I'm able to take their scores and easily transfer it to our data spreadsheets. I can take online magazines where I used to just have one paper copy, and I can attach the link to our digital magazine, and now every child has a color copy of the magazine we're working with. So that kind of stuff has completely made my life so much easier. Not to mention that the kids can interact with each other, which I think they love the most, where they can peer edit and collaborate on documents and slides that never before I could do in that way.
Fantastic. I love it. Getting some echo. So I also want to ask, I know we have Kim here, and Kim, we were talking about some of the firsts you've experienced recently, and you said that was with CS First, which I'm a huge fan of CS First. Tell us a little about what CS First is.
CS First is Google's version of computer science education, and this year was actually the first time I used it. And I've had computer programming experience before using Hour of Code and code.org, and I was a computer programmer, so this is my passion. I love teaching Computer Science Education Week to the kids. But the CS First application was my first year trying it out, and actually it was pretty successful. I signed up through my Google account, and Google sent me a box full of supplies to give out to the students. So what those supplies were, they were like stickers, a passport, which included all of their progress, so they can track their own progress through their passport, a class roster list, and a solution manual, and a lesson plan manual. And basically, and also they gave us certificates for the students at the end when they completed the course. And basically what CS First is, it's a GUI interface, it's a graphical user interface using Scratch to program. And the students watch videos on the skill that they need to learn, and then they practice the skill using Scratch. So there's basically like two interfaces that they have to go back and forth with. The CS First interface with the videos and the interaction with the videos, and then they go into the Scratch interface where they're actually dragging and dropping code and blocks and performing the skills that they learned on the video. So it's a self-paced tutorial that they have to go through. And what's really nice about it is the teacher dashboard through my Google Apps for Education account allowed me to track student progress. So I was able to go through each student's profile and actually see where they were at and what they completed, what they were having problems with, and see how far they got along. And then once I determined where they were, I was able to award them with the stickers that they sent me in their passport. The kids really liked it, but I did find some things with it that I didn't like, because I was comparing it to the Hour of Code, which the teacher dashboard in the Hour of Code was a little bit more user-friendly than the CS First interface. I didn't like that you have to have a Google Apps for Education account to use it with your students, and I didn't like that the CS First generated a username with numbers to each student, and it was very difficult to keep track of what student was that number. And that's why they provided you with the class roster sheets, so that you can write down their name and their number on the sheet. So you always had to refer back to the sheet to figure out what student you were looking at in the teacher dashboard. That interface was very poor. I didn't like that. It was very time consuming for me. So with me being the tech coach, and I'm sure everybody knows here, the first time around is, the kids are the guinea pigs, and then you tweak it as you go during the day. So that whole workflow, I made the kids sign in the beginning of the class on the class roster sheet, and then I called them up by their number, and then they came up and wrote the number down on the sheet. So at least I was able to cross-reference at that point. But in the beginning, I didn't know that because, we live and learn through these experiences, and you tweak it as you go. So by the end, it actually worked out well. But in the beginning, I just didn't know, and I felt like that was a lot of downtime for the first class because it was hard to keep track. But they liked it. The kids were engaged. They learned a lot out of it. Some kids, they didn't like it, and that's fine. Not everyone's going to like programming and Scratch, but for the most part, they were engaged. They did at least complete at least half of the modules in the kit. So like one of the kits that I got was social media, digital storytelling, and sports. So with the sports module, everything was had a theme around sports. The backgrounds, the characters, the props, everything was all themed around sports, and it gave the kids the choice of what sport theme they wanted to use in the program that they were writing. So I picked the theme, whether it was sports, digital storytelling, or social media, and then they ran with it in that kit with the different modules within that kit to complete the exercises. And I tell you what, I would definitely use it next year. I think it was a little bit more challenging for the older kids because our 8th graders used Hour of Code. That would have been the 3rd year they were using it. So I wanted to switch it up for them. I didn't want to give them the same thing that they did in 7th and 6th grade. So I think this next year I will use CS First again, but I might try it with maybe 6th or 7th grade, and then maybe with 8th grade give them, like I did HTML programming with them and they really liked it. But so I might end up doing that next year with the 8th graders and just have the 6th and the 7th graders use CS First. I have to work it out with the STEM teacher and see how her students are, because she knows her students best. I push in, so it's hard for me to get to know them. As the little bit that I see them, I have to go by what she recommends. So I work with her on that.
I'll tell you what, Kim, is I loved a lot of what you said, because first I can echo the frustration of the kids being assigned numbers with their reference sheet. That was really difficult when I was playing around with CS First. And while I love the interface and I love the options that the kids have, I think what I loved most was how easy it was to get started. And so did they send you the kits that you selected?
Yeah, they actually sent it to me. I was surprised how quick it came. I didn't think I was going to get it until December, but I signed up. I think I signed up in September, and I had my kits by the end of September. It was crazy how quick it was.
Yeah, and so that was kind of what surprised me most is, I played around with CS First, and I think I chose fashion, and I think I chose sports. And they were delivered to my school, everything you could ever need to run this program. You said you have a background in programming. I'm kind of self-taught and mediocre at best. But this is designed from the point of having absolutely no programming skills.
Mm-hmm.
And that was what really impressed me, is not only the speed with which I got the materials that I needed, but the level of, I guess I'll call it hand-holding, for lack of a better term.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, some of the directions were even like, turn on the computer.
Yeah.
Write this on the board. When the students come in, do this. At the end of the class, do this. And I could really see somebody who has no programming experience, I can see that being really beneficial, because every step of what you could do to roll out CS First to your kids is laid out to you in a way that was easy to follow. Is that somebody who's experienced, is that your takeaway from it too?
Oh, definitely, definitely. I don't think you need to have a computer science background, computer programming background to implement programming in your class. The kit was designed for people that had no idea about how to program. And like you said, each step was laid out, very detailed, very easy to follow. And honestly, the teacher has to take the risk in doing it. And if the teacher, once the teacher feels comfortable and loses control and let the kids use the modules, I think the teacher would be really surprised on how the students are motivated to go through the modules. And what I also liked about it was that the kids could go back into the module and review the video again if they didn't understand something. It wasn't like they just kept going through it and they didn't comprehend anything. They were able to go back and review. And I really like the interface. The CS First interface, the videos and the modules were really user friendly. But then you go into the Scratch part of it, and Scratch, it's a GUI interface. So, and what that is, it's a graphical user interface made for people that don't know how to program, just to drop and drag code blocks onto the workspace. And as long as you know what the concept is of that command, you would know what block to drop onto the canvas. And it's not meant to be frustrating. It's not meant to be hard. It's meant for you to try it and to implement it. And it's okay that it doesn't work, because that's part of the learning process for the kids, to learn problem solving and solutions and critical thinking skills. And they have to know how to fix things. And if that's the whole part of programming, is a repetitive process.
I love it, and I think that's really important to remember. If you follow growth mindset and the great work that Carol Dweck is doing, the importance of failure is starting to be embraced, which I love. And so, I definitely have experienced implementing some things in my classroom that haven't gone as well as they could, and that ability to redo and revisit things, I think is really important, not just for students, but I think a lot of times as teachers. Somebody
Mm-hmm.
who's brave enough to implement CS First, or somebody who's brave enough like Jem to try Google Classroom for the same time, for the first time. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's really valuable to change that mindset as a teacher, to give yourself the ability to try something and come back to it. I actually have a question for you, Jen. Um, as you were rolling out Google Classroom, did you have any failures? Did you have any points of frustration?
Well, yeah, a little bit. I think I made a few mistakes. I didn't realize at first that after I shared my document, after I attached the document into an assignment and I made a change to it, I didn't realize that the kids couldn't see that. So I made a change to the original document, but I had already attached it in the assignment. So when I was talking about something, they were looking at me like I was crazy because they didn't see the change. So that was something I had to learn the hard way. Also, I didn't realize at first that you could only send a copy of a document to just one time. You couldn't do it to multiple documents on one assignment. So I had to figure a way around that as well.
And here's an interesting question, and Kim, you could jump in too, or Jen, or anybody else on the panel. When I used to teach high school English, I found myself getting to the point of experimenting with things in class so much that sometimes I just apologized to the kids. And I said, guys, you know what? I wanted to do this, but I made a mistake.
Yeah.
Jen, did you find that your kids were forgiving of you as a teacher, when you try new things?
Oh yeah, yeah. Just not yesterday. Yeah, sometime last week, I tried to drag and drop in Google Docs, and I had them drag multiple boxes and drag it into this other box, and it was a disaster. So I said, all right, let's redo. I apologized, and yeah, we just moved on. And I said, okay, we'll try Plan C tomorrow.
And I think that's important to maybe sometime take a step back and think, is that our kids, they want to be engaged and they want to do fun things. And I think bringing that technology piece into the classroom a lot of times, helps facilitate that engagement. And they really are often forgiving because they see you as a teacher really trying. to do fun and exciting and different things, and I think that they're very forgiving of that. But while I think students are forgiving, I'm curious to ask Nick. So Nick, tell us a little bit about your new position and what the expectations are for you there.
Sure. Yeah, I just head over to Ramapo Regional School District, so it's different. Working with teachers is a lot different than working with students, and a lot of them need a lot of hand-holding in the beginning too. They're afraid to try things outside the box. So I think, with students, where I wasn't afraid to, let them know that, if I'm going to try something new, we're going to try something. It's okay if it fails. With teachers, you got to kind of reinforce that multiple times, more so than with students, because they're afraid to try things outside the parameters of where they feel comfortable. So, my goal really for the rest of this year was just to get a feel for the school, see what's kind of needed, build these relationships, get to know the teachers personally, the things that they're comfortable with, the things that they're not so comfortable with, and try to get them to do something new, to try to innovate themselves, to step outside their own boundaries. And that's sort of the goal of where I've been here at Ramapo. So, they're a one-to-one district with MacBooks. They have been, I guess they've kind of lost their way a little bit, and that's sort of why they were looking for some guidance. They were trying to bring in all these fancy toys. They just weren't quite sure exactly where to go with it and how to implement it. So my goal is to, show them some of the tools and some of the ways that we can kind of utilize this to make it a more student-centered approach in the school.
That's very cool. Yeah, and I think Jeff too and I, we do a lot of work with teachers as well, and one of the things I appreciate about my district is just how open-minded they are. And it's not just necessarily about Google, but it's kind of technology in general. And so I think one of the best tips that I could give Nick and people starting out in kind of that working with teacher position is never be afraid to kind of meet a teacher where they're at. I know a lot of times the idea of a teacher taking a worksheet, putting it onto Google, and then handing out that worksheet to students via Google Classroom or something like that. You look at the SAMR model or the TIM model, which is technology integration matrix, how you're supposed to look and see how you're implementing technology in the classroom. I think a lot of times that's a big step for a teacher, is handing out that worksheet and collecting that information, grading it, and handing it back. So I think it's really important not just to think about meeting kids where they're at, but also meeting teachers that you want to work with where they're at as well. Jeff, what has your experience been where you're at?
This is the first year that they've had a technology integration person like myself, and I've kind of just tried every month or so to kind of attack one item. We did a lot with Google Slides at the beginning of the year. I thought it was something that we could all talk about. It'd be easy. I found a couple of really nice projects, and then we went from there into the similarities between Google Slides and Google Drawings, and that's where a couple of these shows ago we talked about the Google Slides animations, and then as this year is progressing, we got into more Google Classroom, and I'm really right now I've been focusing on how does it work. I really haven't started using or throwing around the word innovate much yet, but just basically getting people on the same track. I'm trying to figure out where they are, what they're doing, how they're doing it, and everybody that I'm working with is very, very open, and I'm really, really appreciative of that. And there's people that are early adopters that are like, hey, just give me a worksheet. Wrong idea. Give me a blog post, and I'm good to go with that stuff. And some people are like, look, come on in my classroom. I need some help. And I've had some really, really great experiences where, you shed a little bit of light on somebody, and boom, their classroom just opens up. It's really been a great year.
And you know what, I like that idea too, is because I'm finding, whether it's in the classroom with kids or working with teachers, success breeds success. And maybe, Jen, you could speak to this a little bit. It seems integrating Google Classroom into what you do at school. Do you find now that you've had success with that, would you be more open-minded to trying different ways to do things maybe than you have previously done them?
Oh yeah. I was already thinking about next year and maybe attaching some videos into Google Classroom, so maybe I could find find something, where I could videotape myself or find a video on online and then attach it and create an assignment, and then students can go back and rewatch it and reteach themselves on something that we've already done. So that's something I'm willing to try in the future.
I love it. And
I would also recommend, like with Google Classroom, what I do is I use it for professional development. So for Nick that's new as a tech coach, I would create a Google Classroom professional development group and invite your teachers in there and put a lot of your resources in there and make that your hub for collaboration and questions and resources. And, you're giving it back to the staff. Hey, this is what I'm giving you. I'm making it available to you. It's right here. And I use that as my hub, plus my website. But I do put a lot of my good finds in there, my links in there, my resources in there. And I do have a little bit of collaboration back and forth, not much because they're busy with other things. And if something doesn't meet what they're looking for, they're not going to go through it. But at least I know I made it available to them. And
good idea.
What I also do as a tech coach is I create, because I have there's too many teachers in my school. There's like I'm in a middle school, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, so I think we have over 100 teachers. I'm not really sure. And I'm responsible for the whole middle school. So what I do is I have a Google form. I make them fill out, and they schedule me because I don't want people calling me. I don't want them sending me emails. I make them fill out a Google form, and it's very specific on what I'm asking, and they have to provide details of what their lesson is, their learning objective, and what their technology outcome is. And then I provide the technology resources and the lesson to them, and I schedule it. And if I'm busy that day that they want me to come in, then I'll email them or call them and let them know, hey, we have to make it for another day. But that's my workflow, and that's how I do things, because I can't live in a chaotic world. I have to be organized, and that's the best way for me to keep track of the requests that come in. And once they come in, it gets scheduled on my calendar, and then I get reminded of, when I'm scheduled to go into the class.
that's some great advice. Thank you, Kim. And speaking of firsts, I know I want to throw to Jeff. And Jeff, I know you are ready to talk to us about what do you do, right? What's the first thing you do after you upload a YouTube video?
Yeah, this is a topic that's been popping up recently. I'm one of those people that, if a student creates something, where do you put their digital work, right? I'm a big believer that all video does not have to end up on YouTube. And I'm also a big believer that sometimes the best videos belong only in Google Drive, because we can then lock that down by our domain. But what if you wanted to, maybe you're the film club teacher, maybe you're trying to get into screencasting and videos for stuff like that. How do you make yourself the most efficient? So I wanted just to kind of, throw out the workflow that I do here on TeacherCast, and maybe we can talk a little bit about workflow that you guys have and some suggestions. I want to open up my YouTube channel over here for TeacherCast, and there's a few different ways that we can make things efficient. We all know that if we want to upload it, we've got a few different ways. Many applications these days have an automatic upload to YouTube, and I guess I'm kind of here to say don't use that. I think it might be the easiest way for some people to use like that. I know iMovie is the first thing I'm thinking of, Final Cut, whatever. A lot of these places have upload to YouTube directly. I'm not a big fan of using that, and I'll tell you why. Because over here in our dashboard, we have a lot of settings here that really, really help to shape where we are. Let me see if I can zoom in here a little bit. So a couple of the features in here that I want to share off here is under Channel. We have information about our statuses, our features, our branding, our advanced featured content. But Chris, I want to share with you guys this little feature here, which is not available if you're just in your random app or random app, desktop app, and it's called Upload Defaults. And I kind of set these for my needs and for what I'm doing, because sometimes for me, I just find it's easier to export video to the desktop and upload it. For instance, whenever I upload video directly, it's automatically set to private. I think that's important so we can see it, we can check it, we can do all those things before officially we launch it out into the world. I automatically have it set up for education category. I automatically have it set for the standard license. I leave the title blank, although I could put something there. And then under description, I always have this basic, this is who I am, this is when the video was recorded. I put a small series of tags, and it's always important with YouTube to realize that tags don't have to be one word, and they don't necessarily have to have commas. So a tag could be education or educational podcast or teachercast educational podcast, something like that. And all these things here I already have predefined, and it's important to know this because if you're just going from your phone up to YouTube, you need to check these things. It doesn't happen by default. It doesn't happen automatically. So, do we want to have subtitles? Do we want to have video location, video statistics? All these things I have as an automatic, and I'll show you what happens here. If I come over to our upload and I select my file to upload, I just created a really, really short sample video. But as soon as I choose that, you'll see here that all of these settings automatically pop in and I don't need to worry about it. Now, once this is uploading, of course, I'm going to add extra tags specifically to that video, but I no longer have to type in TeacherCast and podcast and EdTech and education and all these things. I don't always have to type in please like and subscribe. I can just basically paste in my show notes. And then over here, of course, we have our add to playlist. So there's a lot of things that you might take for granted when you just go to your whatever app and hit to upload. But I think by looking a little bit closer to your My Channel status than these default uploads, you're going to find that videos are going to be found easier. Of course, we always want to make sure when we're doing things, we go over here to advanced settings. One of my favorite things, Chris, is to allow only approved comments, because you'll be surprised of what types of comments show up randomly on your posts when you don't have them set. And I always make sure that the recording date is today. I honestly never really set video locations. And I'm looking forward to being able to do 3D videos at some point in time. But there's a lot of things here that are in these YouTube settings. I don't think many people know that they're here. And so, for instance, now I have my video. It is still a private video. And then once I come over to here, I always generate a custom thumbnail image because that's, we look at videos with our eyes these days. And so, yeah, all these little things. A couple other things I'll just quickly point out here. These little information cards came out, I'd say maybe 4, 5, 6 months ago. I can add a card to a playlist. Let's just take this one here. And then this automatically puts a little eye here. Actually, this is a new feature to YouTube. You used to have to do this manually. But, okay, I added this podcast to this video as like a little extra feature here. So there's a lot of things, as you can see, Chris, that are making YouTube videos easier, but a little bit more complicated when you do some of these upload things. So I guess my big advice is go to this mobile upload defaults and set your settings to what you want, and you're going to save yourself a lot of time.
That's outstanding, Jeff. And I'll tell you, that comment about approved comments before they go up, I think that's super valuable,
Yes.
as well as saving yourself a lot of time by presetting a lot of those things that we always wind up doing every time. So I think that's fantastic, man. Very well
Especially,
done.
and I'm looking at this from a standpoint of being the high school film teacher, right? Like, there's going to be a day where you're going to have 30 videos to upload all at once. Why not have some of these things preset ahead of time so you don't have to do that times 30? Or, for instance, I know with some schools, they allow their students the access to the YouTube channel. So you've got 30 kids all of a sudden uploading it. Well, you don't want to tell the kids what settings to put. You want to have that be a default. So, again, I always prefer from Final Cut, from iMovie, from whatever, output to desktop, and then upload manually. You're just going to cleaner video transfer, and it's quicker.
Absolutely. And I'm going to try to do a screen share real quick because something you brought up reminded me of something that I always like to remind people of. Let's see if this works out in my favor. You guys see my YouTube profile?
Not yet.
Not yet? Uh-oh. Let's see.
Okay,
Well,
cool.
do this for me, Jeff, just because this is giving me a pain in the butt recently. If you go back into your YouTube channel, just click on the bottom where it says Create. You do a quick screen share for me, Jeff.
Sure.
So,
Your channel here?
yeah, that's fine.
Where do you want me to go? You want me to go to upload, or what do you want me?
Can you jump into your YouTube?
Sure.
And one thing I always like to remind people, if you go to the bottom of the video, and I'll show Jeff when he gets on there, Jeff's going to go into Creator Studio. And once he goes to Creator Studio for his channel, do you know where the, yeah, go to, yeah, perfect. So what I love is if Jeff clicks on Create, down in, yeah, perfect. So two really cool things are, one, YouTube comes with free to use, approved music. And so I know a lot of times as a teacher I spend time looking for music. And I was actually really impressed with the amount of music and special effects that Google had built in. And additionally, if he clicks on Video Editor, what I like about this too is Google actually has some pretty decent video editing built into YouTube. You could go ahead and stabilize videos and cut and move videos around and add transitions and stuff like that. So it's just something to keep in mind as if you are going to use YouTube, that there is music built in that you can use. And I'll tell you, to this day, the pan and zoom effect, if you have a bunch of pictures that you are looking to turn into kind of like one of those cool pan and zoom videos, I haven't found a better way to make a picture montage into a video than by using the YouTube, pre-mades, and you can actually upload pictures right into it. So, thank you, Jeff. I've been having problems with screen share for a minute, but
And this is absolutely great. There's over 160,000 free audio files on here.
right, and I mean it's just mind blowing. I have yet to not find a song. That I really wanted to have in a video or kind of capture the feeling of my video. So if you go into YouTube and you go to Creator Studio and you have your video, don't be afraid to go into Create and look for some really great music or special effects, or use the video editor built into YouTube, because it's actually pretty strong, especially if you want to make like a video montage. It's pretty neat.
And
So,
right here, this CC, Chris, I'm sure
yes.
you know this. This is the Creative Commons license. You have access to billions, literally billions of videos. Any video that is deemed Creative Commons, you can search for and add to your own video. It's amazing how much stuff is up there. Well, I don't know if you guys heard the latest numbers. Last time I heard it was something like 350 hours of video every second goes up, or it's
Something ridiculous. Absolutely. Yeah, I heard somebody was telling me like 24 hours every 30 seconds or something like that gets uploaded to YouTube. So I mean, it's pretty wild what's going on. But yeah, I mean, I found all that really helpful. And I'll tell you what too, Jeff, were you mentioning the Creative Commons? I mean, that's a great way to start a conversation with a kid about what is fair use and how to use the Creative Commons. And I think a lot of kids know about plagiarism when it comes to text, but when you talk about video and images, not very often is that discussion being had in the classroom. And if you are somebody who is talented, like I have a really good friend who's a great graphic designer, he gets very frustrated that his stuff is being used by people without proper attribution. So I think that's a great conversation to start to have with kids when you start talking about Creative Commons.
I agree.
Beautiful. So for another first, Nick wanted to jump in and show us a little bit about what he has been working on at Ramapo. And this is a first for me because I'm not super familiar with this. So Nick, tell us what you have.
Sure. Yeah, I got two things. Haven't taught English, I was playing around with something. So always asking students to, closely read and analyze some things. It's one thing to have them do it in a Google Doc. So, you can have them annotate and comment on each other on the right-hand side through like the comments section. But I wanted something that was a little bit more streamlined. So what I'll do is I'll just show you what Genius is and then how I kind of paired it with Google. So let's see here. All right, so Genius, we'll go there. We'll start there first. It used to be rapgenius.com, And what it started off as was really just a place for people to collaborate together and annotate. So this is all music that's on this site. But what they did eventually is they dropped the wrap and they made it just Genius. And now people have loaded up books and various texts and poetry onto this site that everyone can kind of go on and annotate right live on this site. So, you know, you could pick something that's out right now that kids are kind of listening to, and they could see what people think about it. Or you could even type in, you know, a literary text. We'll go with Great Gatsby because that's what I was working on recently here with a teacher. But if you see, are you guys able to see kind of the highlighted text here?
Yes, sir. We see it.
Yeah, so what it does is it brings up and this is all different people. So you can actually hover over something, select this in my, you know, younger, more vulnerable years, and it brings up the annotation here on the right-hand side. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to do something like that in Google Docs. That was sort of my workaround, was I wanted it streamlined like this, where, you know, kids can work together or, you know, annotate on their own docs and then have it streamlined, where for me it's easy grading because I can just click something, read what students have to say, but even allow them to tap, you know, embed videos and music and whatnot to it. So what Genius did recently is now they allow you to annotate any website, which is really neat. So that got me thinking, if it's any website or anything that's on the web, we could do it with a Google Doc. So what I did is I took, and here's just something I played with you know, something that a student was doing, is I took a song lyric and dropped it into Google Doc, and all we have to do, it's a pretty simple process, is go ahead and publish this to the web. And that was really a one-step process that I'm working on here to do this. But once you publish it to the web, it brings it up. The only thing I did catch is that we have to make sure that it doesn't require viewers to sign in with their school account or whatnot. That will block Genius from working. So you just leave it as automatically, and then we publish it. Once we publish this on the web, we can take this link and we'll drop it into a new tab here. And what Genius did is they created a prefix. So anytime you drop genius.it in front of the web address, it will actually take that doc and allow you to annotate that doc. So if I go ahead and I highlight, let's just say The Walking Dead here, notice the word annotate pops up. So I can actually click that and go ahead and start to annotate something. And type in here The Walking Dead TV show, whatnot. I can click annotate, but then I also have the ability to go ahead and take something from YouTube if I wanted to, and this was a student, you know, so I could become a student here and type in Walking Dead trailer, be able to take that trailer if I wanted to, and go ahead and bring it right back to Genius on the annotation. So if I go ahead and we'll say annotate this way, we'll paste that in here, and there's the video. So it's really a nice streamlined way for students to annotate anything in Google Docs, which I thought was really cool. And makes it easy grading for me, and then they can share me the link to this doc, and as long as it has the Genius.it in front of it, I can see all of their annotations, they can see each other's stuff, and what's neat too is if Genius.it isn't in front of that exact web address, no one else can comment. So you can also, it's not like it's published and it's out there for everyone to get, it's kind of as long as they have the exact link with Genius.it in front of it. So it was a cool little feature that I was working on. The other thing that I was messing around with was Google Drawings. So I wanted to recreate ThingLink. So one of the things I did was you're able to insert images into Google Drawings and then cut sections of the image to embed hidden hyperlinks. And it's a pretty simple process to do it. All we're doing is we're inserting an image. Go to my Google Drive here and find it. Here we go. So I'll just pull the Great Gatsby here. And as long as we just resize first, so when we do that, we click off to give us the cropping option, so we'll crop the image. So that's the first step. Once we have the image to the size that we want, we're able to kind of go ahead and alter it and embed the links anywhere we want. So theoretically, if I was to just create a text box anywhere in this picture, we could do right here in this image, I could hyperlink this hidden text box. But to make it a little bit more interesting and match kind of the flow of the image and create it for the students, if you actually go to Shapes, and I'm sorry, the Line tool, and we want Polyline. And when you select Polyline, it allows you to go ahead and you can outline some part of the picture. So for instance, I'll quickly outline Myrtle Wilson here, and I'll show you what happens once we do that. Whoops. There we go. So it'll actually grab it for you. Once you do that, we're going to go ahead and we're going to select this part. So let's select this cropped section here. We're going to fill it, and we're going to make sure that we fill it with transparent. When we do that, it will still leave the outline of the image, so we want to make sure we make the lines transparent as well. And if I select off, you'll notice that we can't see what I just did. So it's kind of like an overlay to this image. But if I go back and I make sure I select that part of the text, we can go ahead now and insert the link that we want. And I can go back to my drive or a video if we wanted to. So let's go back to my drive here. I'll take something from one of the folders that I have here. So let me go back. And right here. We can take a little write-up that students had. And we can go back to the image, select it, make sure we insert that link here, apply it, and there we go. So once I do that now, if I actually will show you, we can go to Print Settings and Preview, and I hover over Myrtle, she's now a clickable image. So I can actually go ahead, click Myrtle, and see something that a student wrote. So what I really like about this is, one, it's creative. Teachers can go ahead and really doctor up their own, not just worksheets, like activities and whole lesson plans just with this simple image, but also allows students to do a lot creatively. They could do character analysis here, and maybe in Gatsby embed the trailer and go ahead and do individual slides presentation for maybe Nick Carraway, or a written character analysis and open-ended paragraph for Gatsby himself. So they can embed anything and everything into this hidden image and then share it out to students or the teacher back. So I thought these were just two little quick little activities that I thought go a long way.
That's really neat, Nick. That's the first I've ever seen that. That's a neat way to recreate thing. Lincoln, you're a genius. And so as we start to wrap up, I want to talk a little bit about the changes that Google has made to Google Apps for Education recently. So there's some really exciting things. They have a post up about expeditions and how career tools are starting to come into expeditions. And that was something that I was really excited about. A fun fact is I started teaching at Overbrook High School in Philadelphia. And what I loved about, and especially if you go look at the link to the article that I have up in the agenda for tonight, it's written by Soledad O'Brien, who I got to see last year at ISTE. And what I loved about what she said is she saw Google Expeditions as a way to bring careers to students who may never get to see them any other way. And so she showed off a veterinarian expedition where you kind of got to look around a veterinarian's office and see what they were working on. So Google has a nice post up about how Google Expeditions is going to have some careers, which I thought was really cool. We also have notifications are now available in Google Drive when a file is updated, and Google Drive files are now able to be downloaded for offline editing. So if you ever had issues with connectivity, Google has remedied a lot of that. But the two biggest things that Google has released in the last couple of days I wanted to make sure people were aware of is, number one, if you go into Google Classroom, you can now schedule a post to go up at a certain time. And so the same way you would make a regular post, whether you save the post for later, there's now a new option for schedule post, and you can say you want this post to go out at 6 p.m. or you want this post to go out at 8 a.m. So it's really neat. And the other thing I want to show off is I'm actually going to ask Kim to show it off. And I think this is going to kind of be a game changer is Google Slides has allowed for the implementation of a live Q&A while somebody's giving a presentation. So basically Google Slides now comes with an embedded backchat feature. And I wouldn't say I wasn't a believer in backchat, but I didn't realize how powerful backchat was until I started using it a couple of years ago, especially if you ever show a video in your class. Students want to talk about the movie to each other, or they want to ask questions. Allowing back chat, and I used to use, something like Today's Meet to allow kids to back chat during a movie. It looks like Google has kind of come up with a way to maybe make back chat even easier, or I'm sorry, I keep saying back chat, I mean back channeling, make back channeling even easier into your classroom. So Kim, I see your screen share is up. Tell us a little bit about how this works.
So I was experimenting with it the last few days, and I really like it. They really made it where that shy student has a voice now with the lesson. So basically, what I found, and like I said, I'm not an expert in this. I'm just playing around with this new feature the last 3 days. I am going to teach my teachers about this tomorrow in our Tech Tip Tuesday session. But what you have to do is you have to make sure you get a presentation, and you have to be in presentation mode. So I'm going to go into presentation mode, and my Chromebook is lagging, so I apologize if there's a delay. And it is not going into presentation mode.
No worries. While Kim works on that, what you will see is when you enter presentation mode, there is now new options on the bottom left-hand corner. And those options, number one is the ability to use a laser pointer. So you can actually move your mouse across the presentation and it will show up to your audience as a laser pointer, which is a really nice way to point out features of your presentation. And the other thing you'll see on the bottom left is the ability to open up to a Q&A. And what I really like about this is when you select the Q&A, let's say that you get a lot of questions, participants, your audience has the ability to basically upvote if you're a user of Reddit, which I love Reddit. You have the ability to upvote which question you like the best, and so you'll start to see your best questions rise to the top. So it's really, I haven't had too much of a chance to play with it, but I definitely see the value in back channeling and allowing more audience participation, so I'm excited to see that feature added. And I will give you a little behind the scenes. If you guys go and look at the trailer, Google released a cool little video about how Q&A works. If you guys go check that out, you will see not only Steve Isaacs, who is a wonderful educator in the state of New Jersey, but one of the main characters in the video is actually his daughter. And I reached out, and we might have her on next month to talk a little bit about what it was like to, be part of that whole process of making this really cool video that talks about how Q&A works in slides.
Oh.
So that's something we can hopefully look forward to next week.
Sorry about the technical difficulties, Chris. Thanks for.
Hey, it's technology. I was always told never work with live animals and technology. So
yeah.
Technology is great when it works, but good teachers always adapt when it doesn't. So Nick, Kim, and Jeff, thank you so much. Jen, thank you so much. And I actually want to throw it to Jen for the last word. Jen, I wanted you to speak a little bit about, maybe give some encouragement. Somebody who's on the fence, maybe somebody who's a little apprehensive about trying Google Apps for Education. As somebody who is a noogler, somebody who's new to Google, what advice would you give them, or what kind of pep talk would you, kind of lay on them to give them the ability or give them the confidence to give this a try?
Well, what's our worst fear as teachers? My worst fear is I try something new and 10 administrators walk in to observe me at that exact moment, right? So I think our administration appreciates us trying something, even if it fails. Don't worry about the kids. The kids are resilient. They love when we try anything new. I mean, they think it's the coolest thing that I'm doing this tonight. So it makes your life easier. Give it a shot. That's what I said to any of my coworkers. I said, give it 10 minutes, watch a quick video, And I guarantee it will make your life easier.
Fantastic. And we know teachers are overworked and underpaid, and any way that we can save them some time and give them back, some of their time, I think is really invaluable. So Nick, Kim, Jeff, and Jen, thank you guys so much for joining us. And
Thank
if
you
you
for
are not a
having me.
member of the Google Education Group New Jersey, please join us. The link is in the agenda. And even if you're from, even if you're not from New Jersey, still feel free to join us because not everybody's perfect. Not everybody can be from New Jersey. So, we don't discriminate. So we're happy to take everybody. And if you are just starting out on your Google journey, like Jen, feel free to post in the Google Education group. There's a lot of trainers like Jeff and Kim and myself who are more than happy to, give advice or do hangouts or whatever we can to, help make education and learning outcomes better for our students. So thank you all so much. It's always a pleasure, and we will see you next month on the second Monday like we have done for the last couple. So looking forward to seeing everybody again. Thank you to the wonderful panel.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Bye.
All right, signing off. Take care.